Imagine waking up one day only to discover that every choice you have ever made, every decision you thought was yours, was nothing more than a shadow play, an elaborate illusion scripted before you ever chose at all. The coffee you drank this morning, the lover you said yes to, the fight you picked, the apology you withheld. Were these truly your choices? Or were you simply watching a movie in which you happened to play the lead role, unable to rewrite the lines laid down long before you spoke them? Pause there for a moment. What if even the pause itself, this second you've taken to think, was never yours to take? You see, we live with a quiet, unexamined conviction that in every moment lies the freedom to choose otherwise. You could take the next train or miss it, speak or remain silent, say yes or no. This is the bedrock of the human story. I am free. I determine my life. My choices shape my destiny. Without this belief, how do we justify love, ambition, forgiveness, guilt, even punishment? Without free will, what becomes of morality or meaning at all? And yet, like cracks spidering through a mirror, that belief has been questioned by philosophers, psychologists, and neuroscientists alike. Imagine you reach out to take a glass of water. You feel thirsty. Seems simple, doesn't it? Except neuroscientists have recorded patterns of neural activity, predicting your hand's movements seconds before you consciously decide to move. In other words, your brain had already chosen for you. The awareness that you chose arrived later, like a child chasing after a parent already several steps ahead. How unsettling is that? If decisions arise before you're aware of deciding, then what exactly is you? A commander issuing orders, or just a spokesperson announcing choices already made? This is where the paradox sharpens like a blade. We feel free, yet evidence suggests we aren't. We cannot escape the subjective texture of freedom. Yet we're told freedom is an illusion, conjured by hidden neural machinery and deterministic chains stretching back to childhood, genetics, culture, perhaps all the way to the birth of the universe itself. So here you sit, suspended between two impossible positions. If free will exists, explain why so much of our choice can be predicted by forces beyond us. If free will doesn't exist, explain how responsibility, love, justice, even hope can keep standing when their very foundation dissolves. Are you then free, or merely condemned to believe that you are? Perhaps you sense the existential weight of this question pressing in on your chest. Think of the times you've blamed yourself viciously for failures, told yourself you could have done better, if only I'd chosen differently. Now imagine if those weren't real choices. Imagine carrying shame for something inevitable, like cursing the ocean for producing waves. Or think of the pride you have carried in your triumphs, your discipline, your courage. And then imagine being told they too were just outcomes of a chain reaction in which you were less a protagonist than a witness. Here lies the thunderous contradiction at the heart of our lives. We live as though free. We build societies upon responsibility. We love by trusting others will choose to stay. But beneath it all lurks the suspicion that our choices may be as predetermined as falling dominoes. And yet, something in you resists. Isn't resistance itself evidence of freedom? After all, you can feel yourself rattle against the idea, can't you? Doesn't that resistance give you proof that you could choose rebellion, that your mind is not entirely scripted? Or is even this resistance only the next domino falling in a sequence ignited long before you ask the question? This is the great disquiet. If we are free, we cannot explain the mechanisms of our freedom. If we are not free, the concept of responsibility collapses, and with it, the very ground on which we stand. What then is freedom? What is choice? What is you? You may feel the urge to push away these questions. They sting, they destabilize. But notice even that urge. Is it yours, or simply the reflex of a mind recoiling from the abyss? So we arrive at the threshold. On this side, the world you think you know, filled with fault, guilt, glory, agency. On the other side, a vision of reality in which the lines of your life were traced long before you learned to hold a pen. The door between these worlds is now before you. You cannot unsee it. What lies beyond? The hidden problem and its psychological, philosophical roots. Step further through the doorway. The immediate shock of the great question still lingers in you, the possibility that free will does not exist. But beneath that initial dizziness lies something deeper, a problem older than neuroscience, etched into philosophy, religion, and psychology. The human compulsion to believe in freedom, even when every stone overturned by reason seems to argue against it. Why is it so difficult to relinquish this sense of choosing? Why do we cling to this illusion as though our very sanity depends on it? Consider first the psychological roots. From birth, the human mind forms a narrative of selfhood. A child learns to point to themselves, to say, I. That I becomes an anchor, a center of experience. Yet beneath the surface, the body is carried forward by genetic inclinations, environmental conditioning, childhood attachments, neuronal firings, layers of cause and effect stacking endlessly backward. Still, the developing mind tells itself, I did this, I wanted that. The illusion grants coherence, weaving chaos into a story. Without it, existence feels unendurable. Carl Jung spoke of the psyche as not entirely under our conscious control, that the ego, the conscious I, is but a small island floating on a vast unconscious sea. The deeper drives and archetypes push us, often steering without our awareness. Yet the ego insists, I made this decision. What Jung understood was that the sense of choice is both an illusion and a necessity. Without it, the ego crumbles, and one risks falling into psychic disintegration. Look at Friedrich Nietzsche. He perceived the idea of free will as a theological tool, forged by moralists to instill guilt and accountability. If every action is freely chosen, then every sin is punishable, an effective way to bind the spirit to systems of control. In Twilight of the Idols, he suggests that free will was invented primarily so that humans could be judged, blamed, and made to feel guilty. Yet paradoxically, this illusion also grants us the fire to imagine ourselves as creators of value, capable of willing something beyond mere instinct. To strip it away entirely risks nihilism, the collapse of all purpose into a mechanical churning of causality. Arthur Schopenhauer, dour and unsparing, went further. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. To him we are driven by a blind will to live, an irrational striving force beneath all existence. The supposed decisions of our conscious life are surface ripples, disguises of a deeper necessity. And yet, Schopenhauer saw clearly that this realization does not relieve us of suffering, it magnifies it. To know that we cannot help but struggle, rage, envy, crave, and despair is to carry the heavy chains of determinism consciously. When Jean-Paul Sartre shook the philosophical world with his medicine of radical freedom, declaring that man is condemned to be free, it might sound like a diametric opposition to determinism. But look at the paradox closely. Sartre meant that we cannot escape the burden of choosing, because even to refuse choice is itself a choice. Yet here lies the trap. How do you reconcile Sartre's existential insistence on freedom with modern insights that every neural impulse has antecedents outside of conscious will? Are we condemned to freedom, or condemned to the illusion of freedom? Meanwhile, in the psychological sciences, experiments hammer against our intuitions. Benjamin Libet's famous studies showed brain signals preceding conscious decisions by measurable time. Later works extended this, predicting choices seconds in advance by analyzing brain activity. Even subjective experiences, the hunger leading you to eat, the irritation causing you to lash out, often sprout from unconscious processes bubbling up before the conscious self whispers, I decided. So why do we all, cling to the narrative of freedom? Because without it, responsibility evaporates, and when responsibility dissolves, the human personality risks unraveling. Viktor Frankl, writing from the pitiless depths of a concentration camp, found meaning precisely in the belief that no matter the external conditions, the last of human freedoms remained, to choose one's attitude. Imagine telling Frankl, in his starvation and torment, that his choice of attitude was simply an emergent property of neuronal determinism. The very lifeline by which he endured would have been severed. Illusion or not, the belief in autonomy became a vessel of survival. And this is the hidden problem. The illusion of free will is not merely a scientific debate or abstract philosophy. It is existential scaffolding. Society, morality, love, responsibility, narratives of redemption. All of these lean against the invisible pillar of assumed choice. To tug that pillar out from beneath the structure may collapse the entire edifice. Ask yourself, when you forgive someone, is it not because you believe they could have chosen differently and now repent? When you fall in love, is it not because you believe another wills to stay by your side, not because they were mechanistically destined to orbit you? Even justice, in courtrooms, prisons, laws, rests upon an implied freedom to choose right or wrong. Without it, how do you punish? Without it, how do you praise? The paradox runs deeper still. We need the illusion, yet we are compelled to tug at it, to question it, to probe beneath it. Nietzsche warned that gazing into the abyss transforms the gazer. In this context, the abyss is not nihilism, but determinism itself. A gaze into the machinery of existence, where choice evaporates into necessity and the self dissolves into sequences of causes. When we stare too long, there is danger of despair, but also the possibility of transformation. Thus the hidden problem. The human animal may be shackled by necessity, but it is also afflicted with imagination, a mind capable of envisioning freedom, even if it does not exist. The result is a life lived as tension between illusion and necessity, between dreamed liberty and factual determinism. And this problem is not confined to books and experiments. It is written in the way you wake in the morning, believing you chose to rise, the way you quarrel, believing you could do otherwise, the way you dream, pledging your triumphs to your courage, rather than to accidents of biology and circumstance. Every heartbeat, every thought, is an arena where this hidden problem wages its quiet war. But you have only just glimpsed its depth, for the roots of this problem stretch not merely into your private psyche and our collective philosophies. They coil into the very structure of society, into families, governments, cultures, identities, and above all, they have built consequences more subtle and far-reaching than you likely suspect. Step further. If the psychological and philosophical roots are strong, what fruits do they bear? How does the illusion of free will shape entire civilizations, unconscious behaviors, and silent miseries? It is these unseen consequences that must now be uncovered. The unseen consequences. So far, you've been circling the unsettling proposition that free will might be nothing more than a mirage. We've examined its philosophical weight, its psychological necessity, its existential roots. But now, the question sharpens into something more personal, more urgent. If your sense of freedom is an illusion, what are the actual consequences of living under that illusion, both for you as an individual and for the societies we construct? Consequences arrive quietly, like background music, always present, shaping your mood, though you rarely pause to notice the melody. The illusion of free will, too, hums beneath everything. Strip it away or even doubt it, and the harmony changes. Believing in it reshapes the symphony of human behavior in ways we seldom realize. The weight of guilt and shame. Think first of the role guilt plays in your life. That gnawing internal voice that says, you could have done better, you should have known, you failed. Humans carry this voice everywhere, often as heavy as chains. Yet what if those moments were never real choices at all? If your harsh word to a friend was always bound to escape your lips, if your betrayal or laziness or cowardice was determined by causes older than you, then what is guilt except a punishment applied to inevitability? Imagine a tree that grows crooked because of poor soil, or a storm snapping its young trunk. Would you scold the tree for not growing straight? And yet we do exactly this to ourselves each day. Blame ourselves for being what we could not help but become. The illusion of free will allows guilt to bloom endlessly, often sown deep by family, culture, religion, entire systems thriving on the fertile ground of shame. The currency of praise and pride. Of course, the illusion doesn't only bind us with guilt, it grants us pride. Every accomplishment, your exam completed, the promotion earned, the painting finished, feels authored by you, chosen by your discipline and determination. This sense makes victory sweetest, the applause intoxicating. But does it not also mislead? If triumphs are equally the result of circumstance, biology, and necessity, then personal pride is distorted, even delusional. A distinction emerges. Humility that stems from seeing oneself as part of a web of causes versus the toxic pride born of believing one has singularly mastered fate. This skewed pride builds hierarchies, privileges, and systems of inequality. Those born into wealth or education, driven by genetics tuned for resilience, may attribute their success entirely to hard work, and then condemn others for lacking willpower. But what if willpower itself is not a choice but a product of neurochemistry and early nurturing? In that light, much of human judgment begins to crumble. Justice, punishment, and the machinery of society. Now observe how the illusion scales beyond personal identity into the machinery of justice. Modern societies anchor themselves in the idea that individuals choose crimes. The thief, the murderer, the fraudster, they are punished because they could have chosen differently and chose wrongly. Remove free will, and crime begins to look less like moral failure and more like malfunction. The psychopath whose empathy circuits never developed, the addict whose dopamine receptors cry out louder than reason, the impoverished youth with no model for restraint. If we saw such acts as outcomes of causes, not choices, we might shift from retribution to rehabilitation, from vengeance to preventative care. Imagine replacing prisons with deep treatments of trauma, interventions into systemic poverty, brain-based therapies. The consequences of the illusion are not trivial. They are measured in years spent in cells, families broken by punishment, cycles of violence spun endlessly forward simply because we mistook inevitability for willful evil. Neuroscience of everyday decisions. Let's return for a moment to the personal, everyday level. You tell yourself you decided to eat better, to exercise, to atone for your procrastination. But studies repeatedly show that habits, environment, and priming play far larger roles than conscious decision. Willpower is finite and fragile. Place sweets on the counter and they vanish faster. Dim the lights at work and productivity drops. Yet the story told to yourself is, I chose well, I chose poorly. In reality, countless variables nudge you moment to moment. The unseen consequence here is subtle but corrosive. Instead of recognizing the web of influences shaping your behavior, you take full personal blame. You punish yourself needlessly for what was never entirely yours to control. Cultural conditionings, scripts of control. The illusion also allows cultural scripts to dominate unchecked. Consider religion promising eternal reward or punishment based on your choices. Consider advertising whispering, you deserve this, you've earned it, indulge yourself, implicitly praising free will to sell products. Consider politics, where leaders preach slogans of personal responsibility to obscure structural inequities. Across all spheres, the illusion becomes a tool of control. If I can persuade you that you are freely choosing your suffering, you're poor because you didn't work hard enough, then I can strip society of its obligation to justice. If I can blame you for failing to make the right choices, I never need to examine the conditions determining those choices. Anxiety, regret, and the phantom of the alternative. But perhaps the most haunting consequence of this illusion lies in the inner landscape of regret. What keeps you awake at night is often not what you did, but what you imagine you could have done instead. This is the phantom of the alternative, the vision of an unwritten life you might have lived if only you'd chosen differently. Yet if free will is illusory, those phantom lives are mirages. The life you lived was the only one possible. Regret thus becomes punishment for something that never could have been avoided. Anxiety, too, feeds upon this illusion. You stand before decisions, career, love, creative ambition, and the dread of making the wrong choice sharpens claws in your chest. But what if the choice has already been determined? Then the hours of torment, the paralysis before doors of opportunity, all become theater, a drama you were always fated to play out. What a hidden cruelty, to feel terror before choices that never truly existed. The existential cage. Do you feel the cage closing? The unseen consequences of believing in free will are manifold. Guilt that cripples, pride that divides, systems of justice that punish inevitability, advertising that manipulates, regret and anxiety that consume, illusions of control that obscure the deeper structures at play in our lives. The cage is not merely social or cultural, it is psychological, neurological, existential. And perhaps you notice it. It's happening to you right now. Even as you read this, you feel the push and pull. Part of you resists determinism, insists, but I know I can choose. I feel it. That very resistance is itself the voice of the illusion, deeply ingrained, whispering insistently, even protectively. To let go of it fully would be to let go of the very self you believe yourself to be. But here is the dangerous realization. Illusions always demand payment, and the price of this one is exorbitant. That is why beneath the illusion of freedom lies the possibility, perhaps even the necessity, of rebellion. There must be another way to hold this truth without collapsing into despair. There must be a way to break free from being crushed by the illusion, to reclaim life even in its absence. The time has come to examine that rebellion. The rebellion, how to break free. You can feel the weight now, can't you? The illusion of free will has not merely tricked the human mind, it has shackled it, allowing guilt to fester, pride to distort, justice to punish, and anxiety to gnaw. And yet, buried inside this suffocating realization emerges a strange possibility, that perhaps liberation is not about clinging ever harder to the illusion, but about confronting it head-on. If freedom in the traditional sense is unattainable, then maybe the true rebellion is to forge a new kind of freedom, one that does not require illusions at all. Let's begin with a shock. What if losing free will isn't a loss at all? What if, instead of collapsing into despair, recognizing the illusion provides a different kind of clarity, even liberation? Accepting determinism without defeat. Think of a river. It flows according to gravity, topography, and rainfall. No one demands of it that it should have curved differently, split differently, rushed faster. And yet the river remains magnificent, radiant in its movement, carving valleys, sustaining life. To see yourself as akin to this river is not to be reduced, but rather to be placed in context. You too are a confluence of forces, genetic streams, cultural tributaries, psychological rainfall. You are the river's flow, not its captain. Here lies the first act of rebellion. To stop demanding of yourself the impossible. To stop tearing yourself apart with guilt for being what you were never free not to be. This does not mean apathy. A river, though determined, still reshapes the land. Likewise, your life, though determined, still matters. Not because you are choosing it ex nihilo, but because you are it. Accepting necessity does not make life meaningless. If anything, it renders every moment inevitable and therefore inseparable from reality itself. A counterintuitive freedom, the freedom of release. Consider the paradox. If you are not free in the traditional sense, then the most powerful freedom available is not the freedom to choose otherwise. It is the freedom to release yourself from blame, regret, and the tyranny of phantom alternatives. If there was never another way events could have unfolded, then regret becomes nonsensical, guilt becomes misapplied, and shame becomes a form of confusion. Imagine the lightness in such release. You need not bear the imagined chains of if only. Every missed opportunity, every painful failure, every broken relationship, all of them dissolve into necessity. Not your punishable failure, but the natural unfolding of the river's path. Could such recognition not feel like the lifting of a cosmic burden? Nietzschean transcendence, becoming the author, despite the illusion. Here, Nietzsche offers a provocative torch in the dark. Even if free will is false, one can embrace what he called amor fati, the love of one's fate. This is not resignation but affirmation, to say yes to your life, to everything that has happened, the betrayals, the triumphs, the humiliations, as if you had chosen them. Here, rebellion is not denial of determinism, but its transformation into aesthetic affirmation. You cannot will otherwise, but you can will the embrace. This is leadership of a radical kind, becoming the author of your narrative, not in the literal sense of generating it freely, but by affirming what has been written as if it were your creation. By doing so, you transmute necessity into artistry. Sartre reinterpreted, redefining what choice means. Sartre's radical freedom clashed with determinism, but perhaps we can reinterpret it. Maybe choice is not the power to birth alternatives that could have been otherwise, but the recognition of consciousness as a site where meanings are made. Even if your decision to speak was determined, the way you interpret, frame, and live it imbues reality with significance. The rebellion, then, is not against determinism, but against nihilism. Determined or not, you are the only locus where the flame of awareness burns, and so you still matter profoundly. Psychological liberation, compassion for self and others. Another act of rebellion is compassion. If you accept that others are as determined as you, then resentment softens. That person who hurt you may not have chosen cruelty. They were the product of childhood scars, neurological wiring, and generational trauma. This does not excuse harm, it reframes it. Instead of demanding punishment, you might focus on healing, restructuring, and preventing. Imagine the social transformation if entire cultures shifted from retribution to compassion, from blame to understanding. And within yourself, the tyranny of self-loathing may weaken. How many nights have you replayed regrets, punishing yourself for choosing wrongly? Imagine looking at that past self and saying, "You could not have done otherwise, yet look, you continued, you endured, you carry the scars with grace." Compassion replaces condemnation, and suddenly your existence feels less like a tribunal and more like an ongoing experiment in resilience. Practical steps toward rebellion. Break free then, not by clinging to a fiction of free will, but by reimagining how you live without it. Several practical revolutions emerge. Shift from blame to understanding. Whether facing your own mistakes or others, view actions as outcomes of causes. Instead of flogging yourself or demonizing others, ask, what conditions produced this outcome? What could be changed at the root level to prevent recurrence? Cultivate amor fati. Practice affirming your life as necessary. When regret surges, remind yourself, this was the only way it could unfold. My task is not to undo it, but to embrace it. Design your environment. Since actions are heavily determined by circumstances, reshape them. Fill your space with cues that guide you toward the outcomes you value. Raise the probability of desired behaviors, not by choosing harder, but by structuring life's terrain, the way dams guide the river. Expand compassion. Recognize determinism in others and adopt empathy over rage. This is not a weakness. It seeks deeper justice by addressing root causes, instead of endlessly punishing symptoms. Reclaim agency through meaning, not metaphysics. Even if you are determined, how you interpret the unfolding matters. Tell your story not as a victim of necessity, but as its poet. This reframing is itself the rebellion, a freedom of perspective if not of metaphysical choice. A strange, fierce liberation. By shifting perspective in these ways, you discover a strange paradox. Determinism, once feared as a cage, becomes a kind of release. The rebellion is not a denial of determinism, but a refusal to let its weight crush the human spirit. Instead, you become someone who looks necessity in the eyes and says, "Yes, and I will bless it." And as you bless, something extraordinary stirs. The illusion of free will may be shattered, but from its shards arises a deeper truth. You are always more than a chooser of options. You are not a king of possibilities. You are a seam of consciousness woven into the fabric of the infinite. But what does this recognition point toward? Beyond rebellion, what is the ultimate truth? The deepest and most breathtaking realization waiting in the wings once the mind fully absorbs the end of free will. That final unveiling awaits, like the last revelation before dawn. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Imagine for a moment that you have stripped away every illusion. Free will, unmasked, lies shattered at your feet. Determinism stretches infinitely in all directions. Causes extending backward into a past you never touched. Consequences racing forward into a future already seeded. The rebellion you've staged has carried you far, away from blame, into compassion, toward resilience and affirmation. But a question still burns in the silence that follows. If there is no free will, what is the ultimate meaning of existence? Is there a final truth hidden beneath the machinery of causes? Lean into this question. For the danger of this journey has always been nihilism, the abyssal whisper that if choices are illusions, then nothing matters. But nihilism is not the end of the road. It is a threshold. The ultimate truth waits beyond it, a paradigm shift that redefines what reality and you truly are. The collapse of you. Begin with the most unsettling thought. The you who insists on choosing, who claims freedom, is not what you think. The self, as modern neuroscience reminds us, is a construction, a narrator, retroactively weaving experience into coherence. Experiments reveal decisions forming before conscious awareness. Philosophies remind us the ego is but a mask upon deeper unconscious drives. This self, so proud, turns out to be more like the shadow cast by the real machinery, not the machinery itself. But here is the astonishing twist. Losing this conventional self is not annihilation, but transformation. When you let go of the controller at the center, you begin to realize there was never a separate controller at all. Decisions flow, but they are not yours in the old sense. They are the universe expressing itself through this temporary configuration of neurons you call you. The collapse of free will is also the collapse of separation. Participation, not domination. The ultimate truth begins to clarify. You are never a detached agent choosing your path in isolation. You are a participant in the whole. Each thought, each action, is the ripple of an unfolding cosmos, as natural as a star igniting or a branch bending. What you thought of as personal authorship was always the dance of the entire system, localized through a single perspective. This realization is both humbling and awe-inspiring. Humbling, because it strips away the illusion that you are singularly responsible for every outcome. Awe-inspiring, because it reveals that you were never cut off from the flow of existence. You are the flow. There is no outside to stand upon, no Archimedean point to command from. There is only the river, and you are the river. The illusion revealed as blessing. Then comes the subtle irony. The very illusion of free will, the illusion that haunted you, burdened you, is itself part of the unfolding. It was always inevitable that humans would need to believe in choice to stabilize societies, to endure suffering, to cultivate meaning. Even the illusion was not a mistake. It was a stage in the cosmic theater, a necessary dream. And you arriving here, disillusioned yet alive, was itself determined. Thus, the ultimate truth is not that free will is an illusion. The ultimate truth is that everything is part of the one unfolding, that there is no place where the universe ends and you begin. The cage of determinism was never a cage at all. It was always the infinite itself, misunderstood through the lens of a frightened ego. The drop and the ocean. Consider the image, a drop of water falling into the sea. If it clings to its separateness, I must steer myself, I must retain control. It suffers, it fears dissolution. But once it falls, it realizes it was never apart. It was always water, always part of the ocean. Free will was like that clinging, an imagined independence that feels necessary while you carry it, but becomes irrelevant at the moment of recognition. You are the ocean, pretending to be a drop. The realization of determinism dissolves the pretense, not into despair, but into belonging. Every heartbreak, every triumph, every mistake was not isolated error or success. It was the ocean surging through, shaping itself in endless forms. A new foundation of meaning. What then becomes of meaning when choice evaporates? Here is the revelation. Meaning does not require free will. Meaning is not born from arbitrary picking between possibilities. Meaning arises from participation, from the lived immediacy of consciousness, from the beauty and intensity of being a conduit for the universe's unfolding. Consider a symphony. The violin cannot choose its notes outside the score. The musician cannot choose without the rules of music. Yet the experience of music is not diminished by necessity. It is intensified by it. The meaning of music arises from the harmony of its inevitability. Likewise, your life is not less profound for lacking metaphysical freedom. Its beauty lies in precisely this. That inevitability still sings. The freedom beyond freedom. Strangely, you find that a new kind of freedom emerges, a freedom deeper than the old illusion. Not the freedom to do otherwise, but the freedom from illusion itself. The freedom from unnecessary self-condemnation, from gnawing regret, from fictitious blame and toxic pride. The freedom to live fully immersed in the stream of reality without constantly demanding of yourself an impossible sovereignty. This is freedom as clarity, freedom as surrender, freedom as immersion. You never directed the cosmic play, but you can open your eyes to its magnificence, not as master, but as participant, as witness, as part of its very motion. Toward the cinematic horizon. So here, at the horizon of the thought experiment, you face the ultimate truth with new eyes. You are not a puppeteer holding the strings, nor a puppet helpless on a stage. There are no strings at all, only the dance of the cosmos expressing itself in endlessly creative patterns. You are one of those patterns, irreplaceable, fleeting, radiant. The value of your life is not undermined by determinism. It is consecrated within it. Your tragedies were the universe crying in your voice. Your joys were its laughter through your mouth. Your decisions, illusory though they seemed, were never yours alone. They were the cosmos weaving itself through your particular form. And to see this not as prison but as union is the great awakening, the final realization. Imagine walking outside after this recognition. The wind on your face is not your choice to notice. It is you. The tree swaying in the distance is not scenery. It is you. You are not a solitary agent among things. You are the whole, glimpsing itself from within. That is the deepest liberation. That is the truth hidden beneath the illusion of free will. Not the freedom to be apart, but the freedom that comes from knowing you were never separate. So the journey ends not with despair, but with a vision as wide as the sky. You are the river, the ocean, the cosmos itself unfolding. You never had free will, and yet you were always free, not as chooser of possibilities, but as life itself, inevitable and infinite. And in this revelation, perhaps for the first time, you finally feel it. An unshakable peace, a reconciliation with everything that ever was.